Welcome to this video production blog by Spectral Productions, where we take you behind the scenes on the making of our first independent computer animation production, The Last Rite, Shelleyton Heights. Today we're going to talk about texturing our female character. This is going to be one of the mysterious business suit people. This is business suit woman. Right now there's not much of a business suit because it's hidden. The reason why it's hidden right now is because we are going to put a tattoo right here on her shoulder. The reason for this is because in the series they have these mystic tattoos that helps protect them from the evil monsters that they themselves are in league with. So the problem we're going to have is getting it to show up nice and clean in this area. Now the arms by themselves, if you zoom out, we come in here. As you can see here, the arms themselves are one shader because that by itself is a 4K texture. So you would think that's a lot of resolution, but once we put this tattoo on this small area on her shoulder, we're going to see that's not going to hold up. So let's take a look at it in Photoshop real quick. So this is the tattoo. If you come over here, this is a 2K texture. Considering how much visibility is going to be on the screen, 2K is going to be enough. And here are the textures for the arm area. So the area we want to put it on is right around here. Just grab those faces and then look at it in the UV texture editor. So that's going to be in that area right about there. I could shift the UVs over or whatever, but you get the idea. So the tattoo is going to show up right around here. So just to illustrate, copy and pasting it is really not going to work well. First of all, you're not going to have enough resolution once you scale that thing down. So two problems we have is, one, we don't know how this is UV mapped, so we may get stretching and distortion on the tattoo. The second thing is, as we scale this down, let's put it right about there for now. So now if you zoom in, it actually doesn't look too bad, but we are getting some of the pixelation in here. So let's just save that and see what that looks like. That may be too big. And so let's go and reload that texture as soon as mine's done thinking. They're big textures. And so we see a couple problems already. One, it's way too big, and we're getting all kinds of distortion because the UVs were not laid out for this particular map. Let's just go ahead and scale that down even further so we can try to get it to fit. So now we're really starting to lose the fidelity as we're getting further and further down. And of course we can always do things like run a filter and sharpen it, that kind of thing, to try to clean it up, but it's just, there's only so many pixels there. Okay, so now it's too small and we're getting a lot of pixelation and a lot of distortion, and if I tweak the UVs to try to get this to fit, then I will ruin the UVs for the original textures. I could take it into, say, Photoshop or Mudbox and paint it in, but it's still not going to solve the resolution problem. It'll solve the projection problem, but not the resolution problem. P-Text is another option. If you're using P-Text, then you can up-res just the faces you want to paste that on. But currently, Mental Ray doesn't support P-Text, so that's our renderer, so we can't use P-Text. What's the best way to solve this problem? Well, the best way to solve this problem is to use multiple UV sets. So I am going to just remove that and save that back out. And then I'm going to just save this. Remember, this is a 2K texture. I'm going to save that as a PNG. That tends to work well. Targets can work too. PNGs seem to give me much less problems in trying to get the alphas correct. So let's reload that. Okay, so our tattoo has gone away. Okay, so let's just grab these faces here. I want to make sure you have the right amount. You don't want too many, you don't want too few. You want basically just the area that you want that tattoo to show up on. Take that. Yeah, that should be about right. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new UV set. And let's just do an automatic mapping. And under UV set, we're going to create a new one, and let's call it Tattoo UV set. So now if you come in here to the UV texture editor window, you'll see there's the original UV set. Now there's for the tattoo. Now obviously that split like that isn't going to help us, so let's go ahead and fix that a bit. Okay, so since this is wider than it is longer, chances are we're going to have to shrink our tattoo because we want the tattoo to fit only in that space. But let's go ahead and try this just for starters. So what we need to do is we need to change this color texture from a file to a layered texture. So under layered texture, let's create one of those. So for our first texture, we'll drag in our arms here. Now it's looking green because the top one is still the green color. So you can see as we take the alpha off. So we're going to, under the color, we're going to add a file. And that will be our tattoo. So now we have this layered tattoo here. And then we plug that into the color channel. So I plugged it into our Mental Ray Fast Skin shader. And then I am also going to plug it into this Fong because Maya really doesn't know how to read the Mental Ray shaders. So as of right now, this is not going to work. So you can see that's kind of not what we wanted. Kind of a cool effect though, kind of like it. But that's not what we wanted. So the reason why is because it's layering over the entire thing. It's not being told to use the UV set we just created just for the tattoo. So what we need to do is, on the relationship editors, UV linking. Alright, so we're going to go UV centric UV linking. If we hit UV set 1, you see that file 16 and BSW ARMS color file are both linked to it. File 16 was that new file texture node we created. We didn't name it, we could have named it. Let's check the UV tattoo set, nothing's associated to it, so let's click that file 16, and so now that should tell it that we want the tattoo file, which is the file 16 texture node, to only use that new UV space. Okay, that's a bit better. We're in the ballpark at least. We're getting some weird rendering artifacts because we have transparency in here, but that's okay. So the next problem is that it doesn't really fit. Well, there's two things we can do. We can try scaling up these UVs, but we're going to have a problem if we go too big. And you can see the problem. The pattern's starting to repeat itself. Now the big problem, there's a way that you can fix this, but with the layered texture it doesn't work very well. So if you come in here to the layered texture, click on the file 16 node that we created, and let's tell it to not wrap in the U and the V. So the problem you're going to get is this. You're going to see that gap, and it's not going to really know how to handle the missing parts. Just with no information on the overlay, it just doesn't work right, which is a shame because that's kind of what we would like to do. It looks like we have a whole row on either side we don't need, so one thing we can do is just remove those UVs from the set. So let's split those edges. So now we can grab that. Okay, so we've deleted that extra row of UVs. Now we come in here. Let's go layout, get that all nice and into the 0 to 1 space. And as you can see, it just doesn't quite fit. So what we're going to have to do is scale down the tattoo. Now that means of course that we're going to lose a little bit of resolution, but we're still going to be money ahead compared to what we would have done if we had just copied and pasted the tattoo onto the skin texture. So let's go back to Photoshop. We have everything selected, so let's... Okay, so I've repositioned it a little bit more, and I turned the wrap back on so it blends properly with the base texture. I'll help get rid of that artifact there. There we go. And as you can see, this is coming out way clearer than what it was the first time. Look how clear those black lines are compared to what we did the first time. So let's go ahead and do a quick test render. And well, that doesn't look good. Well, one of the reasons it doesn't look good is we've got to plug in the alpha channel. So let's go ahead and see here our alpha is not plugged in. So we've rendered it, and we are getting the tattoo over the skin. So we rendered it out. This kind of burnt in look is partly because we're using the fast skin shader and we only plugged in the layer texture on the overall color. So the epidermal color is still the same, so that's just more of a look preference than anything else. But as you can see, we're getting some splits here in the UVs because of displacement, and obviously the UVs are getting all distorted for some reason. The answer to that comes from adding this attribute onto the mental ray approximation node. So what we need to do is we need to run this command, add adder, long name, in my export cc mesh, attribute type bool. to the mental ray approximation node. Basically, somewhere along the line, about version 2009 or so, they changed the way the subdivision approximation node worked, and it's caused some problems ever since. And this is basically the ability to turn it off. Once you've added that attribute, simply disable the attribute. Now, it's going to take longer. You don't want to do this if you can avoid it. The render time is, it's not like you go from minutes to days, but it is significant. So if you can get away with not turning that off, the better. However, as we'll see, this should fix the problems we're having with the renders. So here we have the final render. The gaps between the UV shells are gone, and all the UV distortion's gone. So there you have it. And as you can see, we're getting a lot of detail out of that tattoo. We can increase the detail of the tattoo by increasing the resolution of the texture, and it wouldn't change anything other than the fact that the tattoo would be much clearer. So that is how we get a high resolution image onto a very specific area. You can use the same trick if you wanted to do, say, graffiti tags on a wall, or some kind of label on a door, or any kind of similar kind of overlaying of images, as opposed to just baking it all into the same texture and then having the fight resolution. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for more tutorials and more videos from Spectral Productions.